So let's do a few more examples on equations, and we're going to do one more real-world problem at the end as well. So for this first problem, we have 16 minus 8 plus some number is equal to 12. Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to subtract 16 and 8 right away to try to simplify our equation. So I get 8 plus x is equal to 12. Well, now immediately we know what we're looking for. We need that number x. So I'm going to do 8 plus something is equal to 12. That something, I'm hoping you notice, is 4. Therefore, x is equal to 4. For those of you who have learned the strategy for solving linear equations, I will also write that out. So in this case, I added these two numbers together right away, and I got 8 plus x is equal to 12. Then I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides of the equation. So x is equal to 4. For the next problem, I have a minus 6 equals negative 4. So something minus 6 is equal to negative 4. So what I need is I need a number that is 6 to the right of negative 4 on the number line. So I'm actually going to draw a number line for this problem because I think it helps me figure this one out. We're going to start with the number negative 4, and I'm going to go 6 to the right of it. So 1 to the right is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. And our answer here is 2. In the background, you might be hearing my wife breaking up some ice, which is barely noticeable at all. It's a good sign that the mic must be really good, right? So you're really impressed? Probably not. So in this case, that means we have 2 minus 6 is equal to negative 4, which is a true statement. Therefore, a must be equal to positive 2. Let's do one more set of examples that are a little bit harder. Now we got some fractions. I know you're excited. You got to hold it back a little bit. I'm excited too. So we have 5½ plus something is equal to 9 3/4. Now, whenever we see fractions, and we're adding fractions together, the first thing I'm hoping you do is find a common denominator. Get all those fractions the same size. It's going to make your life a lot easier. So I'm going to turn 1/2 into 2/4, and then we're going to add y and end with 9 3/4. So the fraction part might actually be not too bad here, because I noticed that 2/4 plus 1/4 is equal to 3/4. So it's got to be something and an extra fourth. Well, the gap between 5 and 9 is 4. Therefore, 5 2/4 plus 4 1/4 is equal to our answer of 9 3/4. Therefore, y is equal to 4 1/4, or the improper fraction 17/4. We have one last example here before we have the story problem, and this one has some decimals in it. We got 5 4/10 minus some number x is equal to 7 8/10. Now, if we're subtracting a number, we're getting smaller, and our answer has to be bigger than where we're starting. Therefore, our x has to be a negative number. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 7 8/10 and 5 4/10 and find the gap between them, which is 2 4/10. Therefore, we know that x has to be a negative, and it's going to be negative 2 4/10. If we write out the equation again, we get 5 4/10 minus negative 2 4/10, which would be like adding, and that is equal to 7 8/10. Do one final story problem. So Mr. Schmidt is not a very good cook. Like usual, he didn't plan ahead. The egg rolls he's trying to make call for 1 1/4 cups of salt. So when I see an important part of the problem, I like to underline it. But he just poured in half a cup without paying attention. I don't know. Sometimes I get really excited. I just start throwing stuff in before I know what I'm doing. How much extra salt does he need to be correct in the recipe? So let's write out the equation and then we can solve it. So I need 1 1/4 cups. I already have a half of a cup. And how much extra salt does he need? We'll call this S. So we see fractions. We're adding and subtracting. So we are going to find a common denominator. We're going to turn that into 2/4 is equal to our variable S. Now this time it's not as easy as the last one we were doing because 1/4 is smaller than 2/4. So I'm actually going to change this into 5/4 minus 2/4. Whoops, I'm not sure why I write thirds there. 4ths, which ends with 3/4 is what we need for our salt. So Mr. Schmidt needs 3/4 of a cup of salt more. He also needs to read the directions before he starts cooking, but that's a whole nother thing. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know. If not, there should be a list of options on the choice board.